Good afternoon and welcome to today's program, Building Effective Marketing Strategies Online. This event is brought to you by the Pacific Northwest Defense Coalition and Local Fresh. First, I want to make sure that everybody can hear us this morning and see the screen okay. If you can, just type yes in the question tab and let us know that everything is working okay on your end. I would appreciate it. Perfect. Thank you so much. Please do feel free to use this same question field to ask a question at any time during the program. Just type your question in this field and we'll read it to our speaker. Also, in your GoToWebinar dashboard is a handout tab. On that tab, you will see a copy of today's program, as well as a list of upcoming PNDC events. Please do feel free to download those. We are pleased to have Kevin Schrandt, co-founder of Local Fresh, joining us here today. Local Fresh is a new PNDC sustaining member, and we've asked Kevin to join us here and share some of the advice and best practices that have been so valuable to our members. He'll be presenting this here today and as part of a four-part webinar series. We'll start with part one, building an effective marketing strategy online, and look for subsequent webinars where we'll explore social media marketing and local directory optimization in part two. That will be June 27th. Next, we'll have online advertising platforms to drive traffic to a website in part three, and building image via photography and videography will be part four. So we are very pleased to have Kevin join us here today, and I will turn things over to him to begin the presentation.
Thanks a lot, Kate. This is Kevin. I hope everybody can hear me and see everything, and I'm going to jump right into it. Thanks for joining us on this snowy day, which wasn't as catastrophic as everybody thought. But first, I'm going to just go to a slide and let you read about Local Fresh. We are what is called a digital marketing agency, which is kind of a new term for people or for agencies that focus on the online environment, websites, application integration, and the such. We do have traditional type of marketing agency personnel in terms of copywriters and graphic designers, but we also have kind of new age or digital marketing personnel that are skilled at social media, videography, and moving pixels around, if you will. So there's a little bit about what Local Fresh does and is for local businesses, and there's a brief, just a resume for me about who I am. I'm going to jump right into this. What we're talking about today is really 10 steps of developing a marketing strategy. Now, this is not again, the traditional marketing strategy. This is a strategy for your online environment. And it's going to start with the website, but you're going to see and hear a lot of common elements to what you might know as a traditional marketing plan. So what I'm going to be talking about today is I'm going to give examples of some of the different slides here to current clients that we have. We do a lot of manufacturers. I know there's a lot of manufacturers on the phone today, so this would be apropos for any type of product that you are wanting to promote or sell. So I'm going to have a manufacturing example, and that entity is going to be just a sheet metal manufacturer in Seattle. That's what we'll call it. We also do a lot of service industries, and so the service industry, which is more of a B2C because they deal mostly with the public, is going to be a dentist. So I'm going to call that a Portland dentist, or a doctor dentist, or similar. So I'm going to start with the 10 steps, And really, developing a market strategy, this may sound very obvious, but you have to know what your product or service is targeting and who that target audience is. For Local Fresh, honestly, small proprietor businesses that service insurance companies or health wellness that are part of a chamber of commerce are not really good clientele for us, because our team of 8 to 10 people are actually larger than the single proprietor business that has to do everything. We're looking for those companies in about $1 million in revenue up to 25 million in revenue. That's our wheelhouse. So every business has to know who their wheelhouse is and who they are targeting. So first thing is, who are you targeting with your product or service? A second part is commit to a budget. Here again may sound obvious, but some companies just say we're going to earmark $10,000 or $50,000 to a particular budget, whereas if you had a variable type of budget, it allows for changes in your success or not, whether your revenues go down or up. Your budget can flux accordingly. So a good marketing budget would be 3 to 7%. And the other thing is there needs to be a commitment to a budget. The example there that you see is Coke versus Moxie. I know I can't ask the question for everybody to answer, but Moxie used to be the cola at the turn of the century. Right before the Great Depression, they decided that they would stop advertising and stop promoting their product to try to wait things out because people weren't buying, whereas Coke committed to their budget and kept advertising. And I think everybody knows today what is the dominant cola in the world. It's Coke. The last point here, I just want to say that we're going to talk about understanding and also measuring return on investment for your marketing strategy. If you don't have a target and know what you're shooting for, there's wasted effort. People don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. And so this is the first step of that plan. The second point is tell your story. Really spend time at finding something that is going to be compelling. 20 years ago, for example, when the first parts of Amazon came online, who thought that books could be sold online to replace libraries or bookstores? Well, we all know how that's worked out. And I just wanted to show another company and with another product, shoes. I don't know how many people have bought shoes online, but they are available online. And the thing that is compelling with this particular service is that you can order as many pairs of shoes, up to I think it's 30. And as long as you order the shoes, have them delivered to your house and try them on, try them out with your wardrobe, but don't walk outside with them. You can pick the shoes that you want, keep them, and return everything else back to Zappos. And they'll either pick up the freight both ways. So this is a new way for them to take a product that you would mostly go to a retail store, a retail outlet and buy, and make it relevant online. It's more convenient. So their tagline is powered by service. That's how they differentiate themselves from the other shoe companies that are in the malls. So work on developing that story and differentiate it. If you go back to the dental example, if you just say your differentiator is a nice staff, almost every dentist in the country can say they have a nice staff. That's not differentiation enough. If you say that you can do crowns in one day, you start differentiating yourself from a lot of the other general dentists. So find that relevant and compelling and differentiation to really separate your product and your service. The third point is we're going to talk about the website in depth in the coming slides, but I wanted to show this is a hub and spoke type of strategy for developing your website and your online environment. I think everybody here recognizes a lot of those entities that are surrounding the website, but to have an online strategy where you just optimize a Facebook page is not an online strategy. If you read the user agreements with any of these outside entities or social markets or local directories, if you will, they own all the content that you post, and you can't take it down. You can take it down or eliminate it, but they won't return all the materials. You basically are a sharecropper on all of these other outlets. So it's most important for you to develop your own website, your own brand identity, your own content, so that you can control the message and control the environment. Should you be connected to all the other entities that are out there? Yes. But the main point is to start with your own branding, your own website, and then connect it. The other items that are around that side, we're going to talk about a little more in depth about local directories and why that's important to optimize them consistently. Search engine optimization, that acronym SEO, we're going to talk about why that's important for finding products and services today, and then email marketing. So the fourth one, this is called standardizing your NAP. This is not scheduling a NAP, this is standardizing your NAP, and that stands for name, address, and phone number. Find your name, address, and phone number the way that it is structured with the USPS. It's very important. Because the USPS has the database for all of the different deliveries, and so they have the way that they want to read any type of data that comes through their system. So you want to have everything consistent with what they say your format should be. You know, don't just take it for granted that you know how to abbreviate boulevard or street or avenue or whatever. They have their own certain structure in the way that they set that up. Once you do have that, it's important to use that everywhere for consistency. Search engines, and especially Google, likes consistency. What they want to do is cross-check all of these different addresses, and once they find consistency in the patterns, it validates just where you're located, where you are located. Then when you have to go in and claim and optimize your profiles. Google and Yellow Pages and all these other entities that are online, they don't do this for you. You have to go in and claim them and set them up correctly. So using the dental example again, if you have Portland Dental is the name of the practice, but let's say you have 2 doctors at the practice. If you go out and try to optimize a directory in Google with Portland Dental, that's one directory. But if you try to do another one for Dr. Smith and then a third one for Dr. Jones, you may think that you're increasing your chances for people to find you, but you're actually confusing the search engine with too much information, because all those different names, Smith, Jones, and Portland Dental, all have the same address and phone number, so Google doesn't know which one you want to find. So use it sparingly, but use it once within all the major directories. And then display your NAP prominently on your website so that it matches everything else that you're seeing. The fifth point, I asked the question, but here's the answer right in front of you. What's the single purpose of a website? It's to convert visitors to leads. So if that's the single purpose, you have one chance to get it right with most visitors. The biggest disadvantage that all of us has is the one button on the computer, which is the back button. It's so easy. If people don't like what they see, or it's too hard to find what they're after, they hit the back button. So you have to have something that is clean, designed cleanly, uncluttered. Again, we've all been to websites. They're pretty ubiquitous in the marketplace today. So everybody understands kind of what a good website is from a bad one. It's usually the visual elements and the organization of the content, which either engages you and keeps you there, makes it sticky, or makes you want to leave. I can't emphasize this enough. The second point, the content has to be keyword optimized. Again, what is a keyword? A keyword describes what is it that your product or service is or does. So if you have a specific widget, if you have a sheet metal, if you're a dentist, you have to find those keywords or those words that describe who you are, where you might be located, and what kind of service you might be providing. And don't take for granted that just you can write any content and it works. Have someone that understands how to talk in a third person, write the content and optimize it with the right keywords so that you have a chance of being found. Here's another important point, the navigation. It has to be intuitive. If you try to confuse or try to be clever or have a new whiz-bang way of finding information on your site, people may stumble upon it or may be able to find it. But again, we've been to so many websites, we understand that if a drop-down window with all the tabs for all the options work, use it. Photos, I read a statistic that a photograph is 600 times more powerful than a spoken word or for even text, a written word. So good photos, good illustrations, good video, you know, this is not where you should be cheap with the actual content that you're trying to show of your products and your services. Hire a photographer to take the best close-ups, especially if you have very small, intricate parts with details. Take those shots. Don't have someone that just has the iPhone 8 go out and shoot the production floor. You know, this is something that is an investment in your look and your image and will get people to either stay on your site or not. We've all been to websites that were built in 2012 and still have content that is relevant to 2012. Have things that are refreshed, especially on a blog. If you want to support a blog and you want to show your expertise and you want to show what you know and what kind of capabilities your company has, write about a new piece of equipment. But don't let it, don't talk about your latest and greatest piece of equipment if it's 10 years old. So it's also important for the search engines to see that your content is updated regularly so that they can index new and fresh contents. If there's two dental sites or two dental practices right next door to each other, and dentist A updates his content on blog regularly, and dentist B hasn't touched his site for 5 years, Google is going to figure that out, and they're going to position dental A over B all the time because the content is dynamic. And then this may sound obvious too, but tell people what you want them to do when you get to the website. Do you want them to ask for a quote or product information? Do you want them to donate something? Do you want them to attend an event? You know, request a quote, call, tell them what they do, what they should be doing, and make that right front and center on the top of your website. We could spend a whole series about search engine optimization, but a little quip we use, in the digital marketing world is, if you don't have good SEO, you're SOL. And really, it's because so many people now searching is the primary way of finding goods and services. So just a couple of stats about search and why a good website should attract the right words is, if your website can't be found on usually the first page of presentation, you're not going to be found at all. So those statistics are pretty telling. We're going to talk about the second one a little bit here in a minute about why it's important to be in the top spots, but you can see that a great majority of the clicks are for the first 3 offerings, We're a very top-down society, so we always start with the top when we do a query, when we look for fly fishing tackle, or we look for bowling balls, or we look for, services of software type of goods. We always look at those, who are the top ones down, and so if they've gotten to that position, there's more trust and more confidence that we have that they are the right source for us to click on. Again, know the search words. Hire a SEO professional. This may sound self-serving for me, but I will show you on the next couple of slides why this is important and why you shouldn't have just the local high school kid optimize your site because he knows how to get around a computer. So it's important to connect sites to the search engines correctly. And there's a whole bunch of different schema and architecture that you have to go through, an organization of the content in order to do that optimally. And then we're going to talk a little bit about supplementing what your website does with kind of your offsite content. Once you get your website done with all the right keywords and the images, all those different entities that we saw around the hub and spoke model, whether they're local directories like Google, or they're a local directory or a local social like Facebook, you can populate it with, repurpose all the content you use on your main website in those, use the same keywords, and when the search bots from the search engines start going out and trying to look for a query, they see consistency of information, not only just in your address and your phone, but also the types of products and services you have based on your keywords. And here again, we're going to talk about an online advertising strategy and a future, so we won't talk about it here, but the only point I want to make is back up to the bullet about the top 3 spots. If you're just launching a new website or you're a new entry into a very crowded field like sheet metal in Seattle is, one way to supplement getting on the first page of presentation is to advertise, because Google sets aside the top 3 to 4 positions on a search result page, and then the bottom positions on a search result page for advertisements. So there is a need, if you're a new entity and you want to be found, if you can't be found through your organic work, you need to be found through your advertised work. So you're going to have to pay to play or pay to get placement. Back to kind of the different variables. Here again, we're not going to talk about all of these. You can read some of them here, but this is what considered. No one knows exactly what the Google algorithm is, but there are estimates anywhere from 600 signals to over 10,000 signals I've heard from people talk about before that the algorithm looks at to qualify a search and why they rank the way that they rank. So here again, having your address, having domain authority, having the city and state, the search engine is pretty smart these days, and so these are just some of the filters and some of the signals that you're trying to match, and then here's a whole bunch more. And what happens is the more of them, then more as well. So the more of these signals that you can satisfy with good, consistent information that the search engine algorithm can read through and put you as a possible entrant into whatever the query is, the better chances you are of being found. So it's very competitive, and and this is in all different markets, whether you're selling insurance or you're selling sheet metal parts or you're a dentistry. All businesses have their own set of search terms and competition. The seventh, this may not be true for all of the manufacturing businesses, but certainly true for any business that has a service that goes to public. But even, I will say that even on outlets such as LinkedIn, people can still review your service. And so even in a B2B environment, you can get reviewed. And so it's important to know about review sites and encourage reviews, because actually the Google algorithm does favor favorable or reviews, and also quantity of reviews. Again, Google doesn't make the determination who is a good dentist in a certain area. They let the dentists go out and try to get their patients to tell Google which is a better dentist. So if you had two dentists side by side and one has 2 reviews and the other one has 22 reviews, Google is going to look at the quantity, that even though they might be bad or in different reviews, they're going to look at the quantity only and say this dentist must have something more worth talking about than the other, so we're going to rank them higher. So it's important to establish a review of your product and service, and to get them in your social profiles, but also in the local directories, and then connected with your website, because it's just positive affirmation or validation of your product and service. And I'll just say the last one, we get this question all the time: what about negative reviews? What happens? There's really 2 things that I will say. One, never combat a review online. If you can, take it offline. Call the person that might be angry with your service or product, and see if you can find a way to, assuage their concerns offline. Never take it. The worst you can do is get on, and the general public is also always going to side with the consumer, not the business owner. So you just got to be careful on how you do that. And most of these review sites are top-down as well. So if you can get more positive reviews over negatives, eventually the negatives will go down in terms of new ones being placed upon the top of them. Excuse me, so I fumbled through that one. So that's managing your reputation is very important. The power of the pen has shifted to the consumer and for people to buy and use your services. The website has to be mobile friendly, has to be responsive. You've probably heard of responsive design. Basically what that means is that the website it must be built in an application that can morph or change or redirect this content to accommodate the device in which it's being shown. If your website application is not responsive today, then your website is not going to show up in the various formats correctly. And again, it's going to be 2 things will happen. People won't be able to find information easily because it won't adapt to their device so they can find it. And especially since most people are using smartphones, it's a very small environment to begin with. So the information has to be categorized in a certain way. But also Google in their algorithm understands what is a responsive design and what is not. And they will actually discount your site fairly heavily and put it below the others that are in a responsive design as a first option before yours. So it's very important. Smartphones are ubiquitous in the marketplace. We even do search terms now for a lot of consumer products, like pizza or dentist, with dentist near me or coffee near me. So even the keywords near me are important to get into the web content in order to be found locally. So it has to be in a responsive design. Getting social, we're going to have a full presentation on this because it is so important. A couple of the high-level points that I just want to say here is I think that you have to have a strategy for social. There's just no way two ways about it. Just because a social outlet exists, it doesn't mean it's right for your business. Back to the dentist again. If a dentist has a Twitter account and he's showing pictures of his new 911, or he's showing pictures of him at the Blazer game front row, how do you think his patient base is going to react to that? they're probably going to say we're not, he's charging too much, or I'm going to find another dentist. But you have to be careful on how you use the outlets. There has to be a strategy, and it's all around the content. So, there are certain outlets that you have to be involved with. Google and Facebook are two of them. But beyond that, depending on what type of product or service that you're offering and where you want to place it, there's different social outlets that promote, one type of activity or over another. Some are very image oriented, so having an image or having good photos and videography or videos, is important. Some are very commerce driven. So if you have a product, being in a certain social platform makes sense. Some are very business oriented, B2B, like LinkedIn. So again, it's just like other parts of your business plan. You should have a social strategy and how you use it and how frequently you use it or infrequently. And the biggest thing that the social platforms are doing today, it's all about the value of the content. Facebook just came out with a large change to their algorithm that is actually favoring those pieces of content that are shared more often than just plain videos or advertised content. So if you have a piece of content that gets shared by multiple parties, the algorithm says, hey, there must be some value to that content. It's being shared so much, and so that's going to have a lot more value and get a lot more exposure. So there's a whole strategy behind the social aspects of being online. It's just not about, promoting, your kids or any longer. If you want to try to monetize, you're going to have to find a strategy that is going to engage with your audience. The last thing is really, again, setting out when you have the target and you have the dart in the bullseye, is what is it that you're trying to establish with your website? If it's to drive traffic, what do you want them to do when they get to the website? There has to be that call to action. So all of the different activities that are around the website and around all of the different components that you could possibly get engaged with online, they all have to be interconnected and have a strategy in order for you to analyze and then see if it's working or not. And that's the next point, is marketing is really about testing and testing some more to really find out what works with your niche and with your unique product or your unique service. General Patton said it best, that his battle plan is only as good as when it hits the battlefield. And this is similar to here. Your plan's only as good as until it hits the marketplace. And you have to react to the signals and then change, modify if you have to. And then know what your ROI is. This is probably, when we talk about marketing, we always want to try to equate it to dollars. Back to the dental example, if we have an advertising campaign that spends $1,000, how many patients did it get in on that particular campaign? If it was 10, your patient acquisition number is $100. And then we ask it one step further. What kind of production did you get with those 10 patients? If it's $2,000, you can figure that, okay, you spent $1,000, you got $2,000 in return, you can figure out your ROI. This is how we look at all different aspects of the business in terms of what are you spending the dollars on and what kind of return is it getting. And then review and optimize the marketing plan as you go along. It's not something just to launch at the beginning of the year and then keep it in the desk drawer for the balance of the year until it's time to do another one. Those are the 10 steps. I really appreciate you being patient as we went through these. I hope everybody's still engaged here, and I will take some questions. Kate?
Great. Thank you, Kevin. Wonderful information. I'll remind all our attendees you are welcome to type a question in the GoToWebinar dashboard under questions, and we will get that to Kevin here. We do have a couple questions here. Should I build my own website using Wix or GoDaddy or similar services?
Yeah, we get that question all the time. And, you know, Steve Jobs made us all producers of something when he came out with the Mac products. You know, we each can be, you know, movie producers now, or music, or build our own website. And, you know, he made the tools available for us to do those things. But it's kind of like, what happens is a lot of times you can build a site that has a good organization and have image, but where those particular sites really fall down with most people is they don't know how to do kind of the back office connectivity to the internet and to the search engines especially. So we rebuild a lot of sites that were built by one of those self-help type of entities because they usually are not connected. And so any type of off-site marketing is going to be compromised because the site itself it doesn't have the right connectivity to search engines. So it's a good place to start, but not the best, not the best place to end up, and especially with you know, businesses in kind of the market space that we were talking about.
Great, thank you. We do have a question here pertaining to budget for marketing. You had mentioned that 3 to 7% is a good benchmark. Is that of sales revenue, gross revenue? What is that based on?
Yeah, that's based on gross revenues. So if it's $1 million company, a budget range between 3 to 7% would be $30,000 to $70,000 would be considered good marketing budget. And the marketing budget can include a lot of things. It can include your website and your online presence, but it also can include your event marketing, any type of print or collateral or product marketing that you do. So that could be for everything. But the important thing is to establish some type of variable to your revenue type of metric in which to have your marketing budget. If you say, for example, I'm just going to earmark $20,000 this year and you do $1 million in revenue. Well, let's say you're very fortunate next year and you do $2 million in revenue, but you say, I'm just going to do $20,000 again. It's going to be hard to sustain that growth if you don't have something that actually helps promote and sustain the growth. And so a variable budget is important.
Great, thank you. Another question from the audience. Can you provide some examples of how defense contractors can improve their online presence when their customers are big prime contractors or Uncle Sam? Any trends or best practices?
Boy, that's great. That's a great question. That's loaded. There's a lot of things to do, but I think the biggest thing is to have the right certifications or the right designations on your website, and especially on your homepage, that either talks about you're a women-owned business, or you're a veteran-owned business, or you're an economically disadvantaged business. Because federal agencies, they prioritize by business size, but they also have kind of a quota, if you will, that they have to prioritize, or they set aside opportunities for contractors that fit those criteria. So they may say that we need 5% of our contracts from women-owned business, or we need 33% of our contracts from minority-owned business. If your website and your doesn't have those proper designations, or people can't find them, or the search engines can't find them because they're not in your content, then you're forgoing opportunities. And there's a couple of agencies. There's an agency here in Oregon called the Government Contract Assistant Program. It's the gcap.org. And then in Washington State, there's the Procurement Technical Assistance Center that can help you with a lot of those questions. You know, and they go through a whole list of things, you know, what your what your industry, your NASIX is, how to connect to their websites, what kind of information needs to be on there. They're really great resources, a lot more than what I can explain.
Perfect. Thank you, Kevin. And I will make a plug for PNDC's procurement counselor, Carly Dirks, here at our office, is happy to help any PNDC members with any of those questions on any of the certifications and how you qualify for them prior to putting them on your website.
There you go.
Perfect. And Kevin, I know you have generously offered PNDC members free website analysis,
Yes.
which has been really valuable to a lot of our members. Can you tell people a little bit more about what you do with that?
Yes. We use a tool, we use several tools that are able to give kind of a diagnostic report on your current website, kind of the health, how it's connected to the internet, how it's connected to search engines, what's working, what's not. And so we're able to kind of take an independent view because we use these tools to kind of feed us some data, and then we share that data of what we find. It's not 100% foolproof, but it's a lot better than just someone making a visual inspection. This gets kind of the whole back office, if you will, of the website, kind of the technical and the structural, architectural parts of your website, and it just gives some feedbacks. These are the things that you should look at. These are the things that need tweaking. These are absolute no-nos. They'll even tell you those things, like if you're using Adobe Flash. Flash isn't supported by Apple products any longer. So sometimes if you have Flash on your website, Apple products can't really see what it is you're trying to display. Usually it's images, but if you're using Flash application, that software, you may not be able to see certain portions of your website altogether. So there's certain things like that that we can identify and then work with. And then we're also, the second part of that is we'll look at what you're currently doing with your marketing materials and see where there might be some holes, or there might be some inconsistencies, or might there be some bridging with other activities that you might not thought of doing that could make a difference. And not all of it has to be online too. That's really where we spend most of our time. But there's a lot of activities offsite too that have to be part of the whole marketing strategy to promote your image and promote your products and services. So it usually takes about 30 to 45 minutes as an initial kind of consultation, and I'm happy to set that up and do it with anybody that's interested.
Great, thank you. And I know your content information is right on the slide there, or anybody is welcome to get a hold of PNDC's office and we can connect to you too. So thank you. Really appreciate all the information that you shared here today, and I will encourage people to mark your calendar for the next installment in the series, Social Media Marketing and Local Directory Optimization, Part 2 in the series, that will be June 27th. Do look for your PNDC newsletter to come out with additional information and registration on that. We will also have a few upcoming events that I want to remind people about. Next week, we will have a PNDC networking and lunch at Tactical Tailor in Lakewood, Washington. We are also hosting BIS for a Complying with U.S. Export Controls 2-day training on March 7th and 8th, which is actually just a little bit away. It's almost March, if you can believe it. So, Kevin, thank you again. Really appreciate
you're welcome.
You sharing your expertise. All of those joining us online, thank you for spending your hour here with us and learning about this. A copy of the presentation, the PowerPoints, is available under the Handout tab on the GoToWebinar dashboard. We have recorded this presentation, and we'll also send a recorded copy out to all of you if you'd like to share it with colleagues or others. So Kevin, thank you again, and we appreciate
Thanks,
your time.
everybody. Thank you.